How do you start a veterinary ophthalmology practice from scratch, grow it into a thriving business, and how is AI taking us to the next stage? Today's guest is going to talk about that and more. Welcome back to the Happy Practice. Today's guest is joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. We have Dr. Ben Bergstrom, a veterinary ophthalmologist, a graduate of Illinois, Georgia, and Purdue,
That's right.
and a practice owner of 2 years.
That's correct. Yep.
Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah. So I, like a lot of kids, decided that I wanted to be a vet someday. I wanted to help animals, and was fortunate enough. I went to the University of Illinois for undergraduate. Was fortunate enough to get into vet school at Illinois. Spent 4 years there. After switching from an equine track, I made the decision that I wanted to become an ophthalmologist. And so in my fourth year, pivoted. I moved into small animal and got a rotating internship at the University of Georgia. It's a mandatory 1-year internship that you have to complete before specializing going into a residency. So completed that at Georgia, and then went to Purdue and completed a 3-year residency in ophthalmology. Following the residency, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and worked as an associate at an ophthalmology practice in Nashville. We were the only ophthalmology practice there. I decided, though, at one point that I wanted something more than being an associate, and so made the decision to open my own practice. And I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do so. So in October of 2023, we opened the iVets, which is now the second ophthalmology practice in Nashville.
What was it about the ophthalmology that got you so interested?
As a veterinarian, when you're going through vet school, you kind of have to make a decision. Just with as specialized as our medicine has gotten these days, it's very difficult to be good at everything. And there are vets out there that are good at everything, but I wasn't going to be one of those. And I was equine track. I decided, okay, I'm going to focus on equine, but there was just a part of me that felt like I'm going to miss the dog and cat interaction. I'm going to miss out on this opportunity to work with zoo animal exotic species. And so ophthalmology afforded me that opportunity. Yes, I only work on eyes, but I get to operate and manage eyes of all species except for humans.
Are there some cases that, over your career that have really stood out to you? Maybe they were cool animals, or maybe it was a miraculous, oh my goodness, this animal can actually see again.
Yeah, so a couple of things. I guess a miraculous story, and it's not just one point in time. If I could, I say this to a lot of people, if I could bottle up the experience that we get to have day in and day out, when we take an animal to surgery that can't see at all or can't see very well because they have cataracts, and they wake up from surgery and can suddenly see again, that feeling of seeing the animal see their owners for the first time is one of the most special things. Seeing the happiness that comes from the family after something like that occurs is just so incredibly special. And I'm so grateful that I get to experience that a lot. And then, along with that, working with all of these different species, I would say probably one of my favorite species is I am blessed to work with an elephant sanctuary in Tennessee. And so I get to see, on occasion, I get to go out to the sanctuary and evaluate geriatric elephants in eye issues that they're having.
Is there a technical challenge in working with an elephant because they're so huge? Do you have to be up on a ladder?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There are different types of elephants. We've got Asian elephants and we have African elephants. Asian elephants are a little bit smaller. African elephants are the ones that tend to be much, much higher, or
Kings
much,
of the
much
jungle.
taller.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I can see eye to eye with an Asian elephant for the most part. The African elephants, especially the males, I do have to stand on stools to be able to get up to their level. And it's a little alarming. They have to keep full control of their trunk the entirety of the exam because they decided that they're unhappy with something. They could reach and swipe and I'd be in big trouble. So, but you have to trust the trainers. They're amazing people. You have to trust the animal. The animal has to trust you. And I think you can feel that when you're working with them. But yeah, it's something to get used to for sure.
I mean, there's so many animals like that, like a cat, you have to build a relationship with the cat, and Just being able to do that in your line of work is incredibly cool. And hearing about the different animals that you've worked with is also like so impressive. Uh, what do you wish people knew about your specialty?
I wish people knew that we existed from the get-go. I say this a lot to pet owners, to other veterinarians. We really serve as an emergency service for the first time that people meet us. It's a crisis. There's a painful eye because the pressure is high in it. The eye has ruptured and we've now got to fix it or we've got to remove it. And so most pet owners don't know about us until a crisis happens.
Yeah.
I would love to live in a world where eye exams are just as normal in pets as they are in people. So we aren't an emergency service. We are a service that an animal comes to us. Hey, your pet's eyes are doing well. Their pressures are normal. Their tear production is normal. They have no ulcers, and we'll see you in a year. That would, I live in a very fulfilling world, but it would be even more fulfilling if we could prevent a lot of issues from happening.
For sure. And so much of that boils down to having a great operation like you do, right?
Mhm.
So I guess kind of changing gears towards the practice and towards the business. Walk us through that journey of starting the practice. I mean, it's been 2 years and you've built into something very, very impressive. So just walk us through, kind of A to Z, like what that journey's been like.
Yeah, so when I made the decision to open my own, it started with first finding real estate. Finding real estate was not a difficult thing. Getting the real estate under contract and actually closing on real estate proved to be exceptionally important. You don't have to own a property to be a practice owner. It was just something that I wanted to do. And so I won't get into the weeds of it all, but the first property that we were under contract with went sour and I lost a lot of money on it. And I learned from that experience. I found another property, which is the property that we're operating out of now. So that was probably the first hurdle that we dealt with. And then all the while that we were trying to get closed on this property and find a property, we started building systems. And I say we, but initially it was me. And then, so the systems that were in place, the practice management software, the communication solution, the payment solution, all of those things to try to make sure that when we opened our doors, we were ready and we were going to provide a service that people were proud to come to. Vets were proud to refer to us. And then building the team was also, I didn't just want to have bodies. I wanted to have people that wanted to be working in our profession and wanted to shared the same outlook path that I wanted to have a highly successful practice in Nashville. And that's hard. You have to be very picky and it's hard in our profession to turn down people because it's hard to find them. But yeah, so there's a lot that goes into building a practice. I'm not even beginning to touch on it, but those were probably the three biggest stressors: finding real estate, building the systems, and then finding the people that you're going to ultimately end up working with were the hardest things. And now that we're open, it's maintaining all of those things and making sure that as we're growing, that we're not losing sight of why we started what we started. And I think not losing sight of it, keeping our purpose and our mission and our values in mind as we continue to grow are exceptionally important. And even though things get really busy and we live in a chaotic state at some points, just reminding yourself of those things is really, really important.
I mean, that was where my mind was going because unfortunately the audience hasn't been along with us all day where we've been talking about, the values in your mission, but it's so important. It's kind of like the difference between hardware and software.
Mm.
Like you can build out a great building and you can hire amazing staff and, ultimately the software that's going to power that is your mission and your values and your why. Walk us through your values, what those are, and how those kind of shape your practice success day to day.
Sure. So I would say actually our purpose, which, kind of all those terms intermix with each other, but our purpose is twofold. So it is, we want to be highly skilled, highly compassionate veterinarians that provide a great service, and we're able to fix animal eyes. We're able to keep animal eyes healthy because I say this a lot also, a blind animal can do well, but a sighted, healthy animal does so much better. And I try to remind owners of that all the time. So we're trying desperately as ophthalmologists to first and foremost save vision and make sure that the animal's healthy. And then the other part of that, I want to be a very reliable resource for our referring population. The referring vets in our community are the reason that we exist. And without them, we don't exist. And so taking care of them, making sure that we aren't just a place for them to send their patients, but we're a resource. We understand that not all pets can come to see us because of financial reasons, because of geographical reasons, but we are there for them even if they can't physically send them to us. So that's why we're there. And then our mission is we want to be the best at it. So I don't just want to be another practice. I want to be the best one to do it in our city. And, hopefully if we continue to do it well, we can expand beyond Nashville.
Love that. Now, when we look at a lot of the challenges facing practices today, communication is one of the things that you talk about a ton as a speaker and as an author, and it's something that people are dealing with day in and day out. Walk us through what you've learned so far in your studies, and what are the challenges that people are facing from a communication perspective, and what are maybe some solutions that you've come up with?
Yeah, the biggest thing with communication is that communication shouldn't start and end in the exam room. I think communication has to start before you see a patient for the first time. And yes, it's important to communicate thoroughly and completely when they're in the exam room with the pet owner, but it's also important to follow up after they've left. So yeah, maybe they schedule a follow up with us in 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever it may be. But what happens to that animal in between, the time they've seen us and when they're going to come back, it shouldn't be left to the owner to communicate with us if there's a problem. It's okay for you to check in. And I think when you can check in, you build a deeper relationship, you build trust, and you build loyalty. And those things are really kind of what we've based our practice around. It's not just we do things in our hospital really well. We do things in our hospital really well, but also before you come and see us, and we try to do it also after you come and see us. And we don't just want an ophthalmology service, again, to be someplace that you visit when there's a crisis. We fix a problem, and then we want to maintain that care moving forward because we want to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Totally. And as we're implementing more sophisticated communication technology at the practice level, and we're becoming better communicators as team members, what role does AI play there?
I think AI plays several roles. I'm constantly asking myself, how can we harness it? Because that's what everybody's trying to do right now.
Yeah.
Is AI is the buzzword. AI is doing a lot for us right now. I'm a huge proponent of ChatGPT. It's done a lot for my life. But from a practice standpoint, I think AI, it has a role in adding an extra body, an extra person, an extra resource to your practice. So you're not feeling like you're constantly having to hire somebody, a physical person to fill a void. I think AI can step up and help with that. And then I see, the various pain points that I feel during the day. So keeping up with medical notes is one of the most difficult things that I struggle with. I see a lot of appointments every day. I'm also trying to run a business. And so keeping up with medical notes gets to be tricky. So utilizing AI technology to help me manage that. And then also using AI to help me manage after hours responsibility. I also am very passionate about work-life balance. There's a huge burnout and mental health issue in vet med, and we really try to prioritize that in our practice, trying to maintain a work-life balance. At times, things get really chaotic, but I think if you can utilize communication, if you can utilize AI, there are ways to help alleviate some of those issues.
Totally. Especially in a place where so many team members are really, really overworked, like you're talking about. You have way more tasks than you can do in the time that you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people missing, I'm not saying at your practice, but at some practices,
Yeah.
people missing softball games, right? They're coming in early and they're leaving late and they're not taking a proper lunch. And that's just a recipe for burnout, like you're talking about. Yeah. How have you combated that in your practice?
Yeah, and I don't want to sit in this chair and make it sound like I have it all figured out because I don't. We certainly have our own issues. And as a growing practice, I feel like we probably experience more of those. We take risks. We are constantly trying to do more. And so how are we combating that? we recently, when we opened, we made a decision that lunches were going to be really, really important. In vet med, for whatever reason, eating is just not a thing that happens during the day.
Yeah.
So you get to work and maybe you snack on something here and there, and you don't really have a full meal until you get home. When we first opened, we said, all right, we're going to prioritize lunch. Well, we got really busy, and lunches became less of a priority, which is not a good thing. You need nutrition. You need to maintain physical health, mental health, whatever it may be. And so we had a staff meeting just this last week and made the decision that, okay, yes, maybe we're going to have to stick around a little bit later to finish up, but it's really important that everybody's taking the time to take a break, eat your food, because I think in the long run, that's going to help us dramatically. And also, some of the things that you see from increased caseload and just a busy schedule is people that have been friends start to become frustrated with each other. And I'm king of hangry. And if I don't get my food, I start to get snippy. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And so trying to fix those things just by simply saying, hey, we need to take a lunch can be a really impactful change.
Yeah. And the hope is that AI is going to help out with a lot of that.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
The hope is that, and as we implement the tools that are already out there, so as we're kind of wrapping up and coming to the end, I have another question after this, but one of the last questions: what are the AI tools that are already out there that you've implemented, that you've had success with, that would want to educate other people about as you're going around and speaking?
Yeah. So honestly, as far as our day to day, really the only thing that we've consistently implemented is we're using ChatGPT to complete a lot of tasks that take time. So that's been big for us. But I'm also looking at very heavily what's going to help me complete my medical notes that I struggle with. There's a lot of software out there that do that for us. So that's an important fix for us because that's going to correct a pain point for me. And then also we have 4 fully functioning client service representatives answering phones, messages throughout the day, and they're wanting more help because that department is so busy. Does it need to be a physical person or can it be AI? And I think the answer to that is it probably can be AI. And it's not going to take away from the experience. I think it will actually elevate the experience. And it also makes those that are physically there in person, makes their job easier and allows them to do their job better.
Totally. Yeah. Wrapping up now, what would be your parting words of advice for any practices that are out there that are looking to improve their communication, looking to grow, and looking to implement AI?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is communication with your clients. It's so important. We all go into veterinary medicine wanting to help animals, and we do a really good job of that when they're in front of us, but it shouldn't stop there. And communicating effectively with clients, checking in on their patients, like I mentioned before, making sure that the instructions that they went home with are clear. So when they come back in 2 weeks, they've done everything correctly and you're not frustrated with them because the animal's not better. They're not frustrated with you because you didn't communicate effectively with me. Implementing effective communication software, and it doesn't have to be fancy, but something that allows you to bridge that gap so it doesn't just stop in the exam room is really, really important.
Love that. Well, it's been fantastic having you here. Thanks for being here in the studio. Thanks for joining us on the show. And thank you to everybody that's been watching and listening. And until next time, take care.